Imagine holding a book in your hands, its pages filled with elegant script and bizarre illustrations of plants that defy earthly botany, celestial charts unlike any known constellations, and peculiar scenes of nude figures bathing in interconnected tubes. Now, imagine that this book is over 6 centuries old, reliably dated to the early 15th century, and that despite the relentless efforts of the world's brightest minds, its language remains utterly incomprehensible. For centuries, the Voynich Manuscript has stood as an impenetrable fortress of secrets, a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. But could the relentless march of technology, specifically the burgeoning field of artificial intelligence, finally be on the verge of cracking this notorious code, revealing the long-lost whispers of the past? Think about it. For generations, scholars, cryptographers, linguists, and even amateur codebreakers have been drawn into the enigmatic orbit of the Voynich Manuscript. Its vellum pages, carbon-dated between 1404 and 1438, a pivotal era in European history, witnessing the Renaissance stirring and new worlds on the horizon, hold a silent narrative written in an alien script. Unlike the illuminated manuscripts of its time, often adorned with recognizable religious iconography, or penned by known scribes within established scriptoriums, the Voynich Manuscript offers no such anchors. It floats in the vast sea of historical artifacts, unmoored from any discernible author, origin, or connection to other known works. It's as if a message from a forgotten dimension landed squarely in the middle of the medieval world. Have you ever felt the allure of a good puzzle, the irresistible urge to unravel a knot of complexity? Multiply that feeling 1,000-fold, and you might begin to grasp the obsession the Voynich Manuscript has inspired. It's not just a dusty relic for academics. It's a siren song for anyone who delights in the unsolved. Over the last century, countless individuals, from seasoned codebreakers who cracked wartime ciphers to everyday enthusiasts captivated by its mystery, have pored over its strange lettering and perplexing drawings, each hoping to be the one to finally lift the veil. Consider the typical medieval text. More often than not, it would be steeped in religious doctrine, a commentary on scripture, or perhaps a chronicle of historical events, all penned in Latin or another recognizable European language. The Voynich Manuscript, however, offers no such familiar entry points. Its text provides no direct clues to its subject matter. Imagine the frustration of specialists in cryptology, individuals who have dedicated their lives to deciphering the most intricate codes. They have thrown every known code-breaking approach imaginable at this stubborn manuscript. Frequency analysis to identify common letter patterns, polyalphabetic ciphers to detect shifts in encryption, and sophisticated pattern recognition algorithms. Yet, time and again, they have hit a wall, unable to arrive at any conclusive interpretation. It's like trying to fit a key into a lock when you don't even know what the key is supposed to look like. And then there are the illustrations, a captivating yet equally baffling element of this medieval enigma. Many pages are adorned with detailed drawings of what appear to be plants, but these are not the familiar herbs and flora documented in standard medieval herbals. Instead, they are fantastical creations, sometimes combining features of entirely different species into a single bizarre form. Imagine leaves that resemble oak but bloom with flowers akin to a lily, or roots that twist in ways no known plant ever could. It's as if an alien botanist meticulously documented the flora of a distant world. Another section of the manuscript showcases stylized star charts, filled with swirling circular designs and diagrams that strongly suggest astronomical or astrological concepts. Medieval Europe certainly held a deep fascination with the heavens, with astrology considered a serious intellectual pursuit. Yet, none of the conventional zodiac symbols or the Latin names of stars that would typically accompany such charts are clearly visible in the Voynich drawings. Could these be charts of constellations unknown to us, or a completely different system of celestial mapping? The mind reels at the possibilities. Perhaps most curious of all is the section containing rows upon rows of small, nude figures, seemingly bathing or interacting within an intricate network of tube-like structures. What could these represent? Some theories suggest medical treatments, perhaps a form of early hydrotherapy. Others propose medieval bathing rituals, though none of the imagery aligns with known depictions of such practices. Could it even be a symbolic representation of fertility rites or alchemical processes? The lack of any clear parallels in known historical texts leaves experts adrift in a sea of speculation. What further deepens the mystery is the remarkable consistency of the script across all these disparate sections. The same unique style of handwriting, the same peculiar glyph shapes, and the same formatting approach appear throughout the entire volume. There are clearly defined paragraphs, bullet-like markers that might indicate lists or separate points, and even marginal expansions where the text spills into the sides, as if the scribe had more to say or was adding annotations. This uniformity strongly suggests the work of a single scribe or a dedicated workshop, pouring an immense amount of time and resources into creating something with a coherent and deliberate purpose. Could this level of dedication be for a mere hoax? It seems unlikely. Whatever that purpose may be, the Voynich Manuscript's unique blend of seemingly herbal, astrological, and perhaps even anatomical elements, all locked within a single, inscrutable coded system, remains deeply compelling. It's a challenge that has echoed through the centuries, beckoning each new generation to try their hand at unlocking its secrets. Long before the digital age dawned and artificial intelligence became a tangible tool, the quest to decode the Voynich Manuscript relied on more traditional methods, the patient and meticulous work of human intellect. In the early 20th century, as the science of cryptology began to take shape, both renowned cryptographers and enthusiastic amateur sleuths turned their attention to this baffling text, hoping to find a crack in its seemingly impenetrable armor. They employed the same techniques that had been used to break historical ciphers, from the secret correspondences of the Elizabethan court to the coded messages of ancient Rome. Specialists painstakingly counted the frequency of each unique symbol, searching for repeating sequences that might represent common letters or letter combinations. They looked for patterns in the words, hopping to identify grammatical structures or recurring prefixes and suffixes that could offer clues to the underlying language. Yet every early claim of success proved to be ephemeral, quickly unraveling under closer scrutiny. For instance, in the 1920s, an American scholar put forth the intriguing hypothesis that the manuscript was the work of the brilliant 13th century philosopher and scientist Roger Bacon. He theorized that the text encoded advanced scientific knowledge, centuries ahead of its time. Imagine the implications if this were true, a glimpse into a hidden history of scientific thought. However, subsequent research failed to find any verifiable link to Bacon, and the code-breaking techniques used to support this claim did not hold up to rigorous peer review. Over time, similar attempts rose and fell, each igniting a brief flicker of hope before being extinguished by the manuscript's stubborn resistance. During and after the tumultuous years of the Second World War, a new generation of expert codebreakers, individuals who had successfully deciphered sophisticated military ciphers that held the fate of nations in their balance, also turned their formidable skills to the Voynich Manuscript. Their expertise ranged from classical substitution ciphers to the complex algorithms of advanced polyalphabetic systems. Despite their proven track record in cracking high-stakes codes, none could produce a credible translation for this persistent enigma. It was as if the manuscript spoke a language entirely unknown to the realm of human communication. Soon, books and articles began to refer to the Voynich Manuscript as that unsolvable puzzle, a label that only amplified its mythical status and further fueled the desire to conquer its secrets. Even large-scale computational efforts in the late 20th century, utilizing the power of mainframe computers and later personal computers, failed to uncover any standard linguistic solutions. The text seemed to defy the fundamental statistical properties of known languages, like Latin or English, and its structure did not align with that of known Oriental languages either. Some specialists cautiously proposed the possibility of a synthetic or invented alphabet, a language deliberately constructed for a specific purpose. But this raised further questions. How could such a complex system remain entirely undocumented in the historical record? It's fascinating to observe how each era of researchers approached the manuscript through the lens of the technology and knowledge available at the time. Early codebreakers relied on meticulous manual analysis, employing techniques like substitution ciphers, Wegener squares, and letter rearrangements. Later analysts incorporated more advanced statistical approaches, leveraging the growing power of computation. Yet each wave of inquiry confronted the same impenetrable wall of text, confirming that if the Voynich Manuscript employed a typical cipher, it was an exceptionally cunning and sophisticated one indeed. This persistent legacy of frustration ultimately led to the growing notion that perhaps only something beyond the limitations of manual code breaking, something like sophisticated machine-driven analysis or artificial intelligence, could finally unravel the Voynich riddle. As computing capabilities experienced exponential growth in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, a new wave of hope washed over those captivated by the Voynich Manuscript. Many believed that this ancient puzzle might finally meet its technological match in the burgeoning field of artificial intelligence. AI possesses the remarkable ability to detect statistical regularities, subtle patterns, and underlying linguistic structures in ways that often surpass human intuition. Given that cryptograms and ciphers frequently rely on recurring letter forms and predictable patterns, AI seemed uniquely positioned to succeed where traditional methods had repeatedly failed. The fundamental question, however, remained: could a machine, trained on vast datasets of modern and historical texts, actually identify a hidden language within an artifact that bears no apparent relationship to any known script? Researchers began to feed digitized versions of the Voynich text into natural language processing, NLP systems, the very algorithms that power translation software and voice assistants. These sophisticated algorithms analyze the frequency of each individual symbol, how often certain symbols appear in combination, and the overall distribution of these words across the pages of the manuscript. By comparing these statistical distributions to massive databases of known languages, an AI can sometimes detect a statistically significant match that no human analyst might ever spot. Probabilities, rather than guesswork, guide the AI's search for the closest linguistic relative. The potential seemed immense. If an AI could identify a strong statistical alignment with a particular language or a related group of languages, it could provide a crucial starting point for further investigation. Even if the final text was cleverly disguised through complex letter substitution or intricate anagramming, the AI might reveal that the underlying structural characteristics, such as word length distributions or common letter pairings, closely resembled, for instance, an obscure dialect of Middle French or perhaps a lesser-known form of Arabic. Imagine the thrill of finally having a linguistic anchor in this sea of unknown symbols. The inherent challenge, however, lies in ensuring that the algorithm doesn't merely produce coincidental alignments. With so many fundamental unknowns surrounding the text's purpose, origin, and the very nature of its writing system, the risk of false positive matches is significant. It's like trying to find a specific grain of sand on a vast beach. There's a high probability of picking up something that looks similar but isn't the real target. In parallel with direct linguistic analysis, the increasing availability of high-resolution digital images of the Voynich Manuscript from various libraries allowed a global community of volunteers and experts to apply a wider range of machine learning techniques. Not only was AI being used for direct pattern matching within the text itself, but also for analyzing the subtle geometry of the individual glyph shapes, the overall arrangement of paragraphs on the page, or even the unique color profiles of the inks and pigments used by the original scribe. This expanded the range of possible leads, but for each new avenue of investigation, the fundamental hurdle persisted. Bridging the seemingly insurmountable gap between the cryptic letters on the page and a real, verifiable form of language or code that could unlock the manuscript's secrets. As these AI-driven experiments multiplied, a notable milestone emerged in 2016 when a team of computer scientists from the University of Alberta published a research paper outlining a compelling possibility that the Voynich text might actually be a warped or scrambled form of Hebrew. This was precisely the kind of tantalizing claim that ignited excitement and debate across the internet and within the academic community. Some felt that the centuries-old puzzle was finally teetering on the brink of a solution, while others viewed it with cautious skepticism, seeing it as potentially just another in a long line of well-intentioned attempts that ultimately yielded more hype than substance. The year 2016 marked a significant moment in the ongoing saga of the Voynich Manuscript, with the announcement of a potential connection to the Hebrew language. Two researchers revealed that they had employed an AI-based approach to analyze the manuscript, and their findings indicated a top statistical match with Hebrew. Their project utilized natural language processing techniques to compare the manuscript's unique script against hundreds of known languages, meticulously scanning for overlaps in character groupings and the structural patterns of words. The sophisticated software compared a range of features, including the frequency of repeated segments of text, the likelihood of certain letters appearing adjacent to each other, and potential indicators of vowels or consonants within the unknown script. After diligently processing the data, the AI system identified Hebrew as the most statistically likely candidate underlying the Voynich text. This was a truly striking claim, considering the significant differences between the two writing systems. Hebrew, with its Semitic roots, is typically written from right to left and employs a distinct alphabet that bears little to no visual resemblance to the flowing, often looping glyphs that characterize the Voynich manuscript. To reconcile these differences, the research group proposed that the text could be a disguised or anagrammed form of Hebrew. In other words, they suggested that the actual Hebrew letters of original words had been deliberately rearranged, perhaps in a systematic fashion, and then represented by the unique symbols of the Voynich script in an attempt to conceal the original language. The concept of using anagrams as a form of encryption, where the letters of a word are scrambled to hide its meaning, was not entirely unprecedented in historical cryptography. Perhaps the enigmatic scribe behind the Voynich manuscript had employed a similar technique on a much grander scale, creating an entirely new and visually distinct script to represent these scrambled Hebrew letters. To lend credence to their hypothesis, the research team even offered a sample translation of the manuscript's very first line. They suggested that, when the Voynich glyphs were unscrambled and reordered according to their proposed system, it might read something akin to, "She made recommendations to the priest." This tantalizing partial glimpse of potential meaning was enough to generate considerable buzz across various media outlets. Headlines proclaimed that AI had finally cracked the age-old code, raising hopes that a complete and accurate translation of the entire manuscript might be just around the corner. However, those who examined the research more closely soon recognized its inherent limitations. While the AI had indeed identified a statistically probable linguistic match with Hebrew based on the patterns it detected, it had not provided a consistent and universally applicable method to fully reconstruct the entire manuscript into legible Hebrew. The process of unscrambling the letters and rearranging them into meaningful words remained largely undefined and untested on a broader scale. Furthermore, the reliance on anagrams as the primary method of obfuscation was met with considerable debate within the linguistic community. Linguists pointed out that systematically unscrambling every single word in a multi-page text to produce coherent grammatical sentences in another language seemed like an unbelievably laborious and complex undertaking for a medieval scribe, especially without any clear indication of the unscrambling rules. Moreover, there was no known historical tradition within medieval scholarship that explicitly described or advocated for such an extreme and intricate exercise in textual encryption. Whatever the ultimate validity of this proposed Hebrew connection, the 2016 announcement undeniably marked a significant breakthrough moment for AI-based research on the Voynich Manuscript. Never before had a computational approach so confidently and statistically supported the possibility of a single, specific language as the underlying basis for the enigmatic text. Critics and supporters alike eagerly awaited the next crucial step. Would more thorough and rigorous analysis confirm the initial Hebrew link and provide a viable method for full decryption, or would further scrutiny reveal it to be merely a statistical coincidence, a fleeting mirage in the long and arduous quest for understanding? The world held its breath, hoping for a definitive answer to this centuries-old linguistic puzzle. Despite the initial excitement surrounding the AI-driven hypothesis linking the Voynich manuscript to Hebrew, many specialists in medieval texts, linguistics, and cryptography voiced significant skepticism regarding this interpretation. While the 2016 study presented compelling statistical data suggesting a potential overlap in letter frequencies and word structures, it left several fundamental questions unanswered and raised numerous concerns within the academic community. Firstly, the AI system's approach relied heavily on comparing the frequency of individual glyphs and their combinations in the Voynich manuscript with similar patterns found in known languages, including Hebrew. Critics pointed out that such frequency analysis, while a valuable tool in cryptanalysis, could easily detect superficial overlaps without necessarily confirming a genuine underlying linguistic relationship. In simpler terms, the AI might have identified random patterns in the Voynich text that happened to statistically resemble patterns in Hebrew, without there being any actual historical or linguistic connection between the two. It's akin to finding similar cloud formations that vaguely resemble familiar shapes. The resemblance is coincidental, not indicative of a shared origin or meaning. A second major concern revolved around the stark visual dissimilarity between the unique glyphs of the Voynich manuscript and any known historical Hebrew alphabets, whether from the Middle Ages or later periods. Hebrew script, with its distinct angular forms and consistent right-to-left flow, bears virtually no resemblance to the flowing, often curved and looped characters of the Voynich text. While some proponents of the Hebrew theory suggested the possibility of a completely novel and deliberately obfuscated Hebrew script, critics argued that such a radical departure from established writing conventions would be highly improbable without any supporting historical documentation or parallel examples. Furthermore, they noted that while new scripts could emerge, they typically retained some visual echoes of their parent scripts. The complete lack of such echoes in the Voynich manuscript raised serious doubts. The question of practicality also loomed large. Constructing an entire manuscript using an anagram-based code, where every word in the original Hebrew was scrambled and then represented by a new set of symbols, would have required an almost unimaginable amount of effort and meticulous planning on the part of the scribe. This level of complexity seemed particularly improbable if the ultimate goal of the manuscript was to transmit valuable knowledge or information. If secrecy was the primary concern, medieval scribes had access to far simpler and less labor-intensive cipher techniques or transliteration methods that would have achieved a similar level of obscurity. The sheer complexity of the proposed system, combined with the complete absence of any external key or mention of such an elaborate encryption method within medieval Hebrew intellectual circles, fueled doubts about whether the AI's statistical match was more of a chance occurrence than a reflection of a real underlying language. Furthermore, many linguists called for more rigorous linguistic analysis beyond simple frequency comparisons. To truly confirm a linguistic match, one would expect to find evidence of consistent grammatical structures, recurring phrases, morphological patterns, the way words are formed, or at least an approximate grammatical framework that aligned with Hebrew. Critics argued that the AI-based study had not provided sufficient evidence of such deeper structural similarities. They wanted to see proof that a significant sample of the Voynich text, spanning several pages, could be consistently decoded using the AI's proposed instructions and yield a coherent and sensible text in Hebrew. Without such concrete evidence of decipherment beyond a single potentially ambiguous sentence, the Hebrew angle felt incomplete and largely speculative. Meanwhile, it's important to acknowledge that many individuals without specialized linguistic training were understandably excited by the news of a potential breakthrough, believing that at last, some tangible progress beyond mere guesswork had been made. This disparity in interpretation highlighted a fundamental gap between the computational approach, which deals primarily in probabilities and statistical correlations, and the more stringent demands of historical linguistics, which requires verifiable, sentence-level translations and demonstrable grammatical coherence. The debate underscored the complexity of the Voynich problem and the need for interdisciplinary collaboration to truly unravel its secrets. The 2016 claim of a Hebrew connection, while generating significant interest, was not the sole instance of applying the power of artificial intelligence to the enduring enigma of the Voynich Manuscript. Since then, and even in parallel with that research, several different AI teams and independent research groups have embarked on their own efforts to crack the code, each employing a diverse range of algorithmic models and computational techniques to sift through the mysterious text. Some researchers have experimented with deep learning approaches, training neural networks to identify complex patterns and assign statistical weights to different transitions between the Voynich glyphs. These sophisticated models attempt to learn the underlying grammar or statistical regularities of the text without explicit pre-programmed rules, hoping to uncover hidden structures that might elude more traditional analytical methods. Other teams have focused on more classical machine learning techniques, concentrating on identifying recurring patterns in how individual symbols combine to form repeated clusters, which could potentially represent words or meaningful units of text. Yet, despite the sophistication of these various AI approaches, each new attempt has invariably encountered the same fundamental barrier that has stymied human codebreakers for centuries. The Voynich Manuscript does not come with a known, plain text counterpart or an obvious bilingual reference, akin to the Rosetta Stone, which famously provided the key to unlocking Egyptian hieroglyphs. Without such an essential anchor, the AI algorithms are essentially forced to guess the closest linguistic match from a vast pool of known languages, or, even more dauntingly, attempt to build a grammatical understanding of the Voynich script entirely from scratch. Consider the sheer linguistic diversity of medieval Europe. While major languages like Latin, French, and German are well documented, numerous regional dialects and lesser-known forms of speech existed, many of which have left behind minimal written records or have been lost entirely to time. If the Voynich Manuscript happens to be written in a very obscure or extinct dialect, or if it employs an artificially constructed language with unique grammatical rules and vocabulary, even the most advanced AI might struggle to find a meaningful match within its training data, potentially leading to endless dead ends and spurious correlations. Some more specialized AI-driven investigations have gone beyond simply analyzing letter frequencies and word patterns. They have attempted to incorporate other visual and structural features of the manuscript, such as the placement of line breaks, the organization of text into paragraphs, and the presence of unique visual markers like star-shaped or flower-like glyphs that often appear at the beginnings of lines or sections. A few researchers have even speculated about the possibility of steganographic principles being at play, suggesting that the true meaning of the text might be hidden not within the glyphs themselves, but rather in subtle variations in the spacing between letters or words, or in minute differences in the shapes of the characters. However, time and again, while these more advanced and nuanced forms of analysis have yielded interesting observations and potential avenues for further research, they have not yet produced a universally accepted or consistently reproducible method for fully decoding the Voynich Manuscript. The fundamental secrets remain locked within its enigmatic pages. Alongside the increasingly prominent role of AI in Voynich research, more conventional codebreaking methods continue to be tested, although these often operate in the shadow of the technological allure of artificial intelligence. Enthusiastic amateurs, for instance, frequently gather in online forums and dedicated communities, pooling their collective knowledge and applying their own handcrafted substitution alphabets, or attempting to link specific Voynich glyphs to known historical characters from scripts like ancient Greek or Old Germanic runes. While these efforts rarely yield conclusive breakthroughs, they underscore the enduring fascination the manuscript holds for puzzle enthusiasts worldwide. Supporters of the Hebrew AI theory often see their work as having taken the most significant step towards a solution to date, providing a statistically supported link to a real-world language. However, a complete and verified translation that would unequivocally prove the Hebrew connection still eludes them. Meanwhile, a multitude of alternative approaches, both computational and traditional, continue to accumulate, each vying for evidence that might either confirm the Hebrew hypothesis or definitively refute it, pushing the boundaries of our understanding of this persistent historical enigma. While the growing body of AI-based research offers tantalizing glimpses of potential hidden languages within the Voynich Manuscript, another substantial and vocal camp of researchers and skeptics firmly maintains that the entire thing might be an elaborate hoax, a meticulously crafted medieval forgery designed to deceive wealthy collectors or simply to baffle and entertain. Proponents of this viewpoint often point to the seemingly arbitrary nature of the glyphs and suggest that relatively simple methods, such as using specialized stencils or grids, could have been employed to generate convincingly complex-looking words without any actual underlying meaning or linguistic structure. In the modern era, scholar Gordon Rugg famously demonstrated how a cardo grill or table method, a relatively simple technique involving overlapping perforated cards, could be used to produce strings of text that bear a striking resemblance to the stylistic characteristics of the Voynich Manuscript. If the entire text is indeed meaningless gibberish, then all the sophisticated AI attempts to extract linguistic meaning could ultimately be chasing illusions, finding coincidental statistical correspondences with Hebrew, Latin, or any other language simply because random data can sometimes align in superficial ways. This hoax hypothesis could also explain the apparent consistency of repeated letters and letter combinations across large portions of the manuscript, Someone creating a forgery might simply have drawn from a controlled but ultimately nonsensical system of glyphs, ensuring a degree of internal consistency to lend an air of authenticity. Furthermore, the presence of the somewhat recognizable yet ultimately unidentifiable plant-like drawings could have served to give the hoax an added layer of legitimacy. People in the 15th century held a deep fascination with strange herbal remedies and occult treatises, and forging such a document might have proven quite profitable if sold to a noble or scholar eager to acquire hidden knowledge of potent potions or cosmic secrets. Yet critics of the hoax theory raise several compelling counterarguments. They point to the sheer scale of the undertaking, the uniform script spanning hundreds of pages, the meticulous layout of text and illustrations, and the apparent dedication of immense time and resources, as suggesting a more serious purpose than mere deception. Would a forger really invest such a monumental effort for what might be a highly uncertain financial reward? They also emphasize that truly random text rarely exhibits the kind of semi-structured patterns that appear to be present in the manuscript. Some pages, for instance, show repeated words appearing in close proximity to specific plant drawings, or segments of text that seem to occur systematically within sections marked by distinctive star-shaped bullet points. These details, while their meaning remains elusive, seem to hint at an underlying content and organization that is unlikely to arise from purely random generation. AI analyses can potentially play a crucial role in this ongoing debate by attempting to objectively verify whether the statistical patterns within the Voynich text align more closely with the properties of genuine human language or lean towards those typically found in random gibberish. If AI algorithms consistently identify structural similarities with known languages, such as grammatical indicators or statistically significant word-like units, it could potentially undermine the hoax narrative. Conversely, if repeated AI tests fail to uncover any consistent or meaningful patterns across larger sections of the text, the argument for a sophisticated medieval trick might gain further ground. So far, however, no AI method has definitively extinguished the possibility that the Voynich manuscript is, in fact, a remarkably skillful and enduring medieval deception. Even among those who firmly believe that the Voynich manuscript does indeed encode real knowledge, there exists a wide spectrum of competing theories regarding the nature of that knowledge. Beyond the Hebrew hypothesis, numerous other linguistic and thematic interpretations have been proposed over the years, each with its own dedicated proponents. Some scholars have suggested that the Voynich manuscript could be written in a lost Proto-Romance language, representing a linguistic bridge between the early forms of Spanish, French, and Italian before they fully diverged into distinct tongues. Others have posited a potential link to Middle Eastern languages, given the significant intellectual and cultural exchange that occurred between the Islamic world and Europe during the medieval period. A smaller but no less enthusiastic group of individuals urges researchers not to overlook languages outside of Europe and the Middle East, remarking that the global trade routes of the time might have exposed the scribe to linguistic influences from as far afield as Asia. While each of these alternative theories can often point to a few tantalizing eureka moments or superficial similarities between the Voynich script and their proposed language, none have yet yielded comprehensive and widely accepted translations of significant portions of the manuscript. One of the key challenges in validating these linguistic hypotheses lies in the inherent nature of language evolution. The medieval world, while having a smaller overall population than today, was characterized by a far greater degree of linguistic diversity at a local level. Dialects could vary sharply from one region to the next, often leaving behind minimal written records. If the Voynich manuscript utilizes a particularly obscure or localized dialect, an AI might struggle to identify it unless it has access to a robust training dataset containing examples of that specific linguistic form. Scholars specializing in historical linguistics emphasize that many forms of speech from 600 years ago remain poorly documented or have been lost entirely to the sands of time. Another prominent branch of speculation concerns the thematic content of the manuscript. The curious illustrations of bathing nudes, often intertwined with botanical references, have led some to propose that the Voynich manuscript might be a coded women's health manual or a specialized treatise on fertility and reproduction. In this scenario, the intricate botanical drawings could represent specific herbs used for medicinal purposes, and the bathing scenes might depict instructions for herbal remedies or practices related to midwifery and women's well-being. It's theorized that the scribe might have deliberately concealed this knowledge in an obscure script to protect it from the religious or social pressures and restrictions of the era. Critics of this women's health manual theory respond by questioning the practicality of encoding such potentially time-sensitive and frequently needed information at such a high level of complexity. If the text was intended for daily or even weekly use by midwives or individuals seeking remedies, encrypting it with such an impenetrable system seems counterproductive. Furthermore, they point out the lack of any parallel texts or partial references to such a comprehensive and uniquely encoded manual within other surviving medieval sources related to medicine or women's health. Ultimately, all these rival theories, whether based on AI-driven linguistic analysis or more traditional thematic interpretations, collide at the same fundamental gate. The text of the Voynich manuscript simply cannot be read in a consistent and verifiable way. AI systems claiming a Hebrew basis, or any other linguistic basis for that matter, have not yet been able to penetrate that gate and provide a decoding that yields a stable, reproducible, and demonstrably meaningful translation of a substantial portion of the text. This ongoing standoff is what makes the Voynich manuscript a recurring lightning rod in both academic and popular circles. People continue to draw lines in the sand over their favored interpretations, passionately defending their hypotheses. Yet the silent, enigmatic pages of the manuscript continue to defy them all, guarding their secrets with unwavering resolve. Thank you for joining me on this exploration into the enduring mystery of the Voynich manuscript. While you're still here, be sure to click on the video on your screen for more quality content that delves into other fascinating historical enigmas and scientific discoveries. What do you think the Voynich manuscript truly contains? Could AI eventually be the key to unlocking its secrets, or is it destined to remain a testament to the limits of our understanding? Do you lean towards a hidden language, a complex code, or perhaps even a meticulously crafted hoax? I'd love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. And as always, I wish you the very best of health and happiness. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown and want to explore more intriguing stories and unsolved mysteries with me, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more captivating content.